Zok the Heilige Mishnah. We begin today on Daf Pei Beis Amud Aleph, the very last Daf of the Masechta Beis Hashem Yisbarach. We're going to make a siyum on the Masechta today. So the Mishnah here continues with a halacha in connection to what we learned before regarding the Isser of Yichud between men, women, and so on. Lo Yilamid Adam Ravak Seifrim. A person should not get into the habit of having a ravak, an unmarried man, to be seifrim, to be a teacher for children. V'leitilmad isha seifrim. And it also shouldn't be the habit that a woman should be a seifrim, should be a school teacher. Rabbi Laza says, Af mi she'en lo isha, even someone that does not have a wife with him, and the Gemara will explain what that means, lo yilamet seifrim, should also not be in the habit of being a school teacher. Seems to be saying the same thing as the Tanakama, that someone that's single should not be teaching, but the Gemara will explain that there's an additional chiddush Rabbi Laza was saying. Rabbi Yehuda says, Lo yire ravok behema, a single man should not be a shepherd with animals, because there could be a concern about him being with an animal himself. V'lo yishnu shnei ravokim b'talis achas, and two single men should not sleep together with one garment. However, the Chachamim say that this is allowed because we do not suspect Yidden to have any mishkav zacha relations with one another in this way. What's the reason for this halacha? The Mishnah says that a bachar, a single man, should not be a teacher of children. Is the concern over here that he may come to do something inappropriate with one of the children? But Vatanya, didn't we learn in Abraisa? Amru lo Rabbi Yehuda, the Chachamim said to Rabbi Yehuda said that a person shouldn't be alone with the animals and two men together in one garment. And so the Chachamim disagreed with this. Chachamim said to Rabbi Yehuda, no, lo nechshedu Yisrael al mishkav zacher v'lo al behema, that Yidden are not suspected for such a thing, not mishkav zacher, two men, and not with an animal. So that can't be the reason why the Tanakama, the Chachamim, is saying that a single man shouldn't be a school teacher because he's concerned for the children. Says the Gemara, El Ravuk, the reason why a single man should not be a school teacher is Mishum Amasa the Yunuki. It's because of the mothers that are bringing their children to the teacher to teach them. And Isha, the same also with a woman. She shouldn't be a teacher of these school children, Mishum Avasa the Yunuki, because of the fathers that are bringing their children to learn by this. If it would be a woman, so it would be inappropriate connection between this single man and the mothers, or the mother that's teaching, or the woman that's teaching, and the fathers that are bringing their children to teach, to be taught Torah. Then the Mishnah said that Rabbi Laza says, Rabbi Laza added, if he doesn't have a wife, he shouldn't be a teacher. What did he come to add? So the Gemara has two ways how to explain what Rabbi Laza was adding. The Shaila was asked, what did he mean? Is he saying, Misha ein lo isha klal? Does he mean to say that someone that right now does not have a wife at all? In other words, what he's adding to the Tanakama is, a ravuk is a person that was never married. A bacher that was never married. And here he's adding even someone that was married, and now his wife is divorced, or she passed away. So he should also not be a school teacher. Is that what he was adding to the Tanakama? Or he was adding actually even a bigger chiddush. Even if he's currently married, but his wife is away, she's out of town. That's also enough of a reason that we have to be careful that this man should not be teaching the school children and be exposed to other women. So the Gemara says, we learned this, Tashema, Af Mishi Yeshloi, even a person that right now is married, Ve'ena Shruya Etzloi, and she's not here with him right now, she's out of town, Lo Yilamet Seifrim. He should not be teaching children. Then the last thing was, the Mishnah said regarding Rabbi Yehuda, that he should not be, this single man should not be also a shepherd, or two men should not be sleeping with one talis, with one garment. So Tanya, as we quoted before, Rabbi Yehuda, the Chachamim said to Rabbi Yehuda, we're not concerned about this. Yidden are not suspected of mishkav zachor, and also v'lo ala behema, and they're also not suspected of having a relation with an animal. So this is not something that we have to be concerned about. Okay, so here this is the last Mishnah of the Masechta. So the Mishnah continues from this. It starts off also with a halacha that's connected to the inyan of yichud, and then it goes into other things as well. A person that in his business So he, in his profession and his trade, he deals with women. So then, lo yisyachid b'manoshim, he should not seclude himself with women, and this is different than the halacha we learned before. What this means is, before we learned that a man may not be in yichud, seclude himself with 1 or 2 women. But if it's more than that, 3, 4 or more, then we're not concerned about this. But over here, this person that's very, very comfortable with these women, so therefore, even if it's more than 2, he should not be alone with them because he's so comfortable with them, so we're afraid that something inappropriate could happen. A person that has to teach his son a profession, he should not teach him a kind of profession where he's going to have to be involved with women, because then it could come also to something that's inappropriate. Rav Meir says about this, about teaching your children, your son, a profession. If you're teaching your son a profession, you should always teach him umnes nekiya v'kala, a easy and clean profession. V'yispalel, and you should daven. The Gemara is going to give an example of what this is. What's an example of an easy and clean profession? And v'yispalel misha eisher v'anachasim shalai. Once you teach your son a profession, now daven to the Eibishter, all riches and all money, everything belongs to him. She'ein umnes, you should know there is no profession, she'ein ba'aniyas va'ashiris, where that you don't have the 2 possibilities of being poor or being rich with this profession. Shaloi aniyas meno umnes, v'loi ashiris meno umnes. Because poverty or richness does not come, it's not distributed based on different types of professions. It's all based on the zechusim of a person, so therefore you should daven to the Eibishter that he should make you rich even after you have a certain profession. Taisus here actually says, when the Mishnah says zechusai, it doesn't mean a person's zechusim, person's merits that he has to be deserving to be rich, because there's a Gemara that says that banachayim mezayne are not totally in a person's chusim. It's a mazel. It's something that's beyond schus. It comes from a higher level. The Mishnah here, when it says schus, means a level of a mazel, which is higher than that. But other Yishayim do say that there is certain inyanim of schusim and davening that a person, it says in the Mishnah, you can daven, yispalel, that a person can be zeiche to, that his profession should bring him ashiris, richness. Rav Shimon ben Elazar said, Re'isa miyamecha. Have you ever seen in your lifetime, chaya v'oif, an animal, a bird, sheyesh lem umnis? They have a certain profession. V'heim ismarnis and shalei b'tzar. They get their parnasa, their food that they need, without all the pain and suffering that we see human beings go through with their parnasa. So now he can ask, all animals, birds in the world, they are created for the sake of the human being, to serve the human being. And I, the human being, is created to serve the Eibishter. So the human being, he's the purpose of creation, and he is created to serve Hashem. And all the animals, everything else in the world is here just to assist us, serving the Eibishter. So if they are getting their parnasa without the pain and suffering, so for sure human beings should. So why is it not so? Because of our actions that are not the way they should be, so therefore we don't have the parnasa coming to us so easy. Person teaching his son a profession, he should not teach his son to be a chamar, a camel driver, a donkey driver, a gamal, a camel driver, a kadar, a person that makes pots, a sapan, a sailor, a roye, a shepherd, and v'chenvini, or a storekeeper. Nusan, all of these different professions just mentioned there, umnis list them. These are professions that there's thievery involved, there's geneva involved in this. Rashi over here goes through this. Rashi says that the Chamra, Gamal, Safa, and Kadar, these are all people that they're going on their way, and on their way there's all kinds of they pass through as they're traveling. They come across a vineyard or properties and different things, and they take things to eat on their way. They're hungry and they without permission. So there's Geneva involved there. And the same thing also with a roya of behemoths, that he has to take his cattle to go pasture out in the field, and he ends up taking them into properties that don't belong to him. And similar with the storekeeper, Rashi says that he's selling something and you sell it by weight. He puts in some pebbles to make it weigh a little bit more when he's selling grain to save himself some money. So therefore, these are all kinds of trades that the person can very easily steal, and also he doesn't think too much about it. And so therefore, this is not a kind of trade you should teach your child. But Rabbi Yehuda says a little different. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer Mishmai. Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Abba Goryeh, Hachamarin, the donkey drivers, Ruban Rishayim. Most of them are Rishayim, as mentioned, because the way they travel on their way through villages and towns, and they end up taking things from properties and for food that they want or they need, that doesn't belong to them. So most of them are Rishayim. V'hagamalin, but the camel drivers, Ruban Ksherim. Most of them are actually kosher. Why does a person travel with a camel? Because he wants to go a very long distance to travel through a desert. So Rashi says over there, you travel through a desert, you're not stealing food from anyone. On the contrary, you're traveling through a desert, you're in a place of danger. You can be exposed to bandits or the other elements that there are in the desert, and therefore camel drivers are actually people that know that they depend on the mercy of Hashem, and they daven more to Hashem. So most of them are actually kshedim. Hasapanim, and the ones that are sailors, Ruban Chsidim, most of them are very pious because it's even more dangerous when you go out in the water. So they very much know how much they're dependent on the Eibishter, so they're on a higher level, Chsidim. Then says Rabbi Yehuda, Toiv shebereifim legehenim. The best amongst doctors belongs in Gehenim. Rashi here actually gives 3 reasons for this. One thing that Rashi says is because a doctor is a person that knows exactly how to take care of himself, so he never gets sick, and he's very confident with his health, so he doesn't daven to the Eibishter for this. And also, sometimes he could mistreat a patient, and he could end up chas v'shalom causing someone to die. And the third thing Rashi says is that if he has the ability to heal everyone, even someone that can't pay him. But sometimes he's not going to accept a patient that can't pay, so that's a terrible thing. So those are the 3 reasons why the Gemara says, Mishnah says, Toiv shebereifim legehenim. But the Rishonim here saying this, that the Ramban says in this, the Mishnah is not trying to tell people, to discourage people of being a doctor. The world needs doctors to heal them. The Mishnah is trying to just point out to a doctor, be careful of the pitfalls of being a doctor, and you should be a doctor the way you're supposed to, and not to have these problems that Rashi here mentions. The best amongst a sheikhit, a person that's his profession to be a butcher or a sheikhit, shutve shel Amalek. He's the partner of Amalek. So Rashi explains the reason is because very often it could be a situation of something that's treif, and here he has a huge animal, and it'd be a huge loss for him if it'll be treif, and it's a suffix. If it'll be a suffix of a treifa, he's going to be makel, he'll be lenient about this, and he's going to serve it to people. Rashi says sveike treifis. Even this Rashi doesn't say chas v'shalom a vadai treifa that he's going to serve it. Even something that he's going to be makel, so a suffix treifa, and he's going to serve it to people. So therefore, he becomes the partner of Amalek. I don't know why dafka Amalek. Yeah, suffix. Yeah, maybe suffix is gematria Amalek. Okay. Rab Neirai said about what we're talking about here, to teach your child a profession, which is an obligation of a parent. I leave all professions of the world. I teach my son one thing, how to learn Torah. The Torah I teach him, he eats from the reward of this in this world. The principle of the reward of this Torah he learns is in Olam Haba. And v'shar kol umnois einon came. All other professions are not so. So what does this mean that you have the schar of Torah in this world? In what way? Because all other professions, if a person is sick, if a person gets old, or he's in whatever other painful situation, so he's not able to do his work, so he doesn't have a profession, and he's going to die from hunger. But a person that has Torah, this is not so. The Torah is with him and protects him from any evil. In his youth, and it gives him in his old age as well, his life in his old age, and hope in his old age, in his old age as well. In his young age, what does the pasuk say? The pasuk says, "V'koivei Hashem yachlifu koyach," that those that hope to Hashem and learn Torah, they should constantly renews their energy. What does it say regarding a person's old age? That even in their old age, they give fruits and they grow and they have the Torah with them. And the pasuk of the Oid Yinuvim B'Seiva is talking about the people that learn Torah, and this is a mashal that they constantly have more Torah to learn. Similar, it says regarding Avram Avinu, Avram Zakin, that when Avram Avinu was old, Vashem Berech es Avram Bakail, even in his old age, the Eibishter benched him with everything. So Metzina, we find Sha'asa Avram Avinu es kol ha-Torah kula, that Avram Avinu fulfilled the entire Torah, Atchelei Nitna, even before the Eibishter commanded the mitzvahs. Shanem, as the pasuk says, Eikev Ashashama Avram Bekaili, Avram listened to my voice, Vayishmer Mishmarti Mitzvaisai Chokaisai V'Sayraisai, fulfilled all the mitzvahs before Hashem commanded them. So here, this statement of Rab Neiroi, that a person should teach his son only Torah, not any other profession, the Maharsha asks about this, that a person has to live. Don't you have an obligation to teach your son a profession, that he should have a parnasa? How is he going to have parnasa if he's just going to know Torah and nothing else? So the Maharsha says that what the Mishnah here is saying is like it says in Pirkei Avos, that of course a person has to have a profession, but the malacha, his profession, should be arai. That should be the secondary occupation of a person, and the main occupation of a person should be Torah. That's where his heart and mind should lie, his shiurim of Torah. That's what Rab Neiroi meant, that when you teach your child a profession, don't think, oh, now he's secure and safe, he has a profession, he has money, and everything is good. No, you should teach your children the value of Torah, that the main thing is, the kva has to be the limud of Torah. That's the Maharsha's pshat. There's a sikha from the Rebbe on this as well. There's a few hadranim from the Rebbe on Masechta Kidushin. One of the hadranim of the Rebbe is printed in Lekutei Sichos Chelik Lamed Hey. I think it's in Parshas Toldus. And there the Rebbe explains that Rab Neiroi is actually is speaking about what a person can teach his child on a higher level. There's a famous Gemara that says that there are certain individuals that could be on a level where they're Teirasim Nasim, that they just learn Torah with nothing else. And then certain individuals that could be on a level where they completely dedicate their life to Torah. And there the Gemara says, if a person does this with an MS, what happens? So the Eibusher will provide for them in some other way without them having to work at all for themselves. And that's what Rab Neiroi was talking about over here. And therefore the Rebbe says, the Mishnah connects it to Avram Avinu. Similar to Avram Avinu, when he fulfilled Torah, Asa, the girsa here that we have in our Mishnah is, Asa Avram Avinu's kol ha-Torah kula. There's another quote that is in another place where there it says Kayim Avram Avinu, that he fulfilled. Some are great to hear it as well, but over here it says Asa. Asa, the Rebbe says, he did with Mesiris Nefesh. Even though he didn't have the obligation, he wasn't looking for any schar, he did for Mesiris Nefesh. With Mesiris Nefesh, Kol HaTorah Kula, and Avram Avinu gives over that Koyach of Mesiris Nefesh for his descendants, for the Yidden later, that even though naturally a Yid has to have Parnasa, and also learning Torah. Torah has to be Kva, even more than the Parnasa. But Rabbi Neiroi is saying that it is possible, and we have this power from Avram Avinu, to teach your child to just learn Torah without anything else. It's like a unique level, it's a very high level, but this is Maniach Ani, says, I'm on this level that I could be like Reb Shimon ben Yochai, to leave any other umnis in the world and just to dedicate completely to learning Torah. That's the Rebbe's pshat over here in this statement of Rab Neiroi. And we learned in the Braisa regarding what it said in the Mishnah. A person that his profession is that he has to constantly be engaging with women, so then he's in a way that he's turning towards could be evil behavior. People that are jewelry, they make the smiths. Goldsmiths, Vasrikim, and those that are dealing with the garments of women, they comb or the garments of the women to make them good. Vanakaitis, those that deal with the mills, that you have to clean them out for the women that are grinding their flour in it. Vahareichlim, peddlers that are selling things for women. Vahagardiim, or also Gardiim is what? Weavers. Vahasaparim, and barbers. Vakoivsim, the launderers. Vahagara, which is a bloodletter. Vahabalon, the bathhouse attendant. Vahabursiki, and a tanner. These are all kinds of jobs where you have to constantly deal with women. So therefore, this sudaira. And so over here as well, Mefarshim say, what's the Gemara saying? That this is something that a person shouldn't do. It's giving you a certain caution. You should be careful. That if, of course, a person, the world needs all these kinds of things, but it's giving you a certain thing to be cautious with these kinds of professions. But now, the last few that it said over here, regarding the borsiki and so on, such kind of jobs that are not very dignified, you cannot appoint someone to be a king or a kohen gadol from these professions mentioned here, the ones that are dirty and not dignified professions. My time, not because individuals with such kind of professions are puzzled from being a king or a kohen gadol, because the job, the profession that they have is degrading. So therefore, it's not right to appoint a king that you have to have a person for such a high position should not have such a degrading job. Tan Rabbanan, we learned in the Braise, Asara Dvarim Nemru Begara. There were 10 things that were said about a person that's a bloodletter. Just a bloodletter in those times, we learned many times in the Gemara, it's not just something today like a blood test or something like that. They would let blood, they would take out a lot of blood. And that was the way they would heal, to refresh the blood, to take out whatever illness there could be. So this bloodletter is a person that could have a very, very negative attitude. And again, the Gemara is saying all these things as a caution that a person that has this position of being a bloodletter, you should be careful of his attitude. So it could be that Mahalach al Tzida, he walks on his side, which means that he walks with this haughty kind of demeanor. V'ruchai gasa, he has his attitude is a balgaiva, is a haughty behavior. Nitle v'yeshiv, when he sits, he doesn't simply sit on a bench together with everyone else, but he's a balgaiva, he has to sit always with something to lean on. Ve'eino itzara, he has a stingy eye at people, because this is the reason he has a stingy eye is because he's someone that he eats together with the people. When they would come to let blood, so they would have to eat before a lot, not to get too weak. So and he would eat together with them, so that he doesn't ever buy food for himself. So he ends up being a very stingy person. And he also has a bad eye looking at people, because he sees people that are healthy, and he hopes that they become sick, so he's going to have business from them, so they'll have to come to him. He eats a lot, and he relieves himself, only a little bit comes out, because he eats always healthy, and so therefore he's moitzi kima, and this itself causes a haughty behavior by him. And because he has to also deal with women as well, so there's a suspicion about his inappropriate behavior, and also vala gezel, and also to steal, because Rashi says that the women come to have the blood let from them, and they don't have what to pay, so they take money from their husbands without their husband's permission. So this is gezela, and val shvichas damim, and also he can cause to spill blood. If chas v'shalom, if he takes out too much blood, it can end up killing someone. So therefore, a bloodletter is a person that has to be very, very careful with his profession, both in his attitude, his behavior, and how he treats people, and so on. A person should always teach, like it said in the Mishnah, a clean and easy profession. What is this? Rav Yehuda said, Machte de Talmiyusa. Machte Talmiyusa is needlework, stitching the garments. That, and Talmiyusa means that it creates in the garments these rows that are similar to the rows in a field when it's plowed, and it creates the rows in order to plant in it. So this is also the work that he does with the garments that create these kind of rows. But this is a clean and easy job. Tanya Rebbe Yomer. Rabbi said, there is no profession that will all of a sudden become extinct in the world. And so there's many different kinds of professions, and ultimately everything is needed in all kinds of different areas. But Ashrei, fortunate, is Misha Raya as Hoira of Bomnis Mula, person that sees that his parents have a very good and dignified profession. And Rashi here says it goes on the parents, and same is also fortunate as one that sees by his children that they have a good profession. And oiloi lemisharoya es hayrav, and woe to the one that sees his parents or his children bomnis paguma in a very not dignified profession. And he gives an example. The world cannot exist with a basam, a person that prepares the perfumes and the things that have good fragrance for people that need. And also the world can't be without the bursaki, the one that the tanner that does very dirty work. Ashre mishum nusai basam. Fortune is the one that his job is clean and is beautiful, like the basam that always has good smell. And va'ilai lemi yishum nusai bursaki. And woe to the one that ends up in the job of a bursaki. Another thing he says is, the world cannot exist if you don't have males and females. Ashrei mishabanav zacharim. Fortunate is the one that his children are males. And unfortunate is the one that his children are females. Okay, so this is a very, very shocking statement of the Gemara, and obviously you have to just finish saying you have to have nekevis. So there's a famous pshat. I think it says it already in the Meiri. He says that it says here banov nekevis. It doesn't say that unfortunate is the one that is zarai or his children are nekevis. What it means to say is if a person has zecharim, he has men, but they're behaving like nekevis, that's what's unfortunate. The men are supposed to be busy doing mitzvahs and busy learning Torah. because men are chayiv and mitzvahs, even mitzvah shas man grama, and not like women that are potter from learning Torah as well. If a person has his sons that are acting like his daughters, so that's what he said is unfortunate. Rav Meir says, teach your children a easy and clean job. And then you beg mercy of Hashem. All riches and all monies belong to Him. Poverty doesn't necessarily come from one specific kind of a job, and richness doesn't necessarily come from another specific type of job. The richness comes from the Eibishter. Shenem, as the pasuk says, Liya Kesev, Liya Zav, Noam Hashem Tzvais. That this gold and silver all comes from Hashem. That's what Hashem says. And the Mishnah said, Rav Shimon ben Elazar says, look at the animals, the birds in the world, that they don't have to work so hard for their parnasa. So why is it that we do? So here the Gemara brings in a brayso what Rav Shimon ben Elazar said, and he said more details about this. Tanya Rav Shimon ben Elazar miyamai. In my whole lifetime, l'reisi tzvi kayatz. I never saw a deer that's working hard to take the figs and to have to put them out in the field and dry them in order for them to be good, to be able to eat it, to prepare, in other words, to work hard to prepare the food to eat. Va'ari sabal, or a lion that's a porter that has to schlep and carry around the food to deliver them from one location to another, or vishul chemvini, or a fox, which is more of a sly animal, that it should be a storekeeper. You don't have any of these professions amongst the animals. They don't have to work so hard to prepare their food. They get their parnasa without any of these steps and stages that cause tircha and tsar and pain. They were all created to come and serve the human being. And I was created to come and serve my master. So of all these animals, they were only created to serve me. They get their parnasa without any pain. And I was created to serve Hashem. Most definitely a human being deserves to get his parnasa without any pain and suffering. Because of our actions that are not perfect, so therefore we don't have also the parnasa so easy. As the pasuk says, that it's because of the avedas that things are off the course and they're not straight and direct. The parnasa doesn't come straight and direct as it should be. So the simple pshat of the Gemara over here is as you see, it's talking about what because of avedas, so therefore our parnasa is not as easy as it is by the animals. But the Rebbe, in another hadrin on Masechta Kidushin, this is in Lekut Sichos Chelik Tezvav, Parshas Vayechi, there the Rebbe says that what Rav Shimon ben Elazar is really saying is that the whole world, as he begins saying, the whole world is created for the Yidden, all to serve the human being that serves the Eibishter. So it's the same as also with the animals, that the three examples that he gives here, he talks about the deer, the lion, and the fox. These are three examples of what they were really created to be. If creation would be the way it would be, so then they would actually be serving Yidden to prepare all objects necessary for a mitzvah. A part of what Rav Shimon is trying to say is that they would be preparing, in order for a person to fulfill a mitzvah, you have to have the objects of the mitzvah ready for you. You can't just wake up one morning, I want to put on tefillin. The tefillin has to be prepared and so on, all the steps. So the Rebbe says that the three details that he mentioned here are the three steps that are necessary to prepare a mitzvah. The tzvi kayetz is that you take the figs the way they grow on the tree, and then you have to change it and prepare it in order to become edible. And the same thing also with the object of a mitzvah. You have to take the hide of the animal and you have to change it and prepare it in order to become the tefillin, that you have it the way it is. So that's regarding changing its physical shape and size and so on. Then there's also the delivery, the ari, the porter, that when you do a mitzvah, so the esregim grow in Italy. You have to deliver them and bring them over here in order to do the mitzvah. And then the shul, which is the chemini, the storekeeper, what's a storekeeper? He sells, it's a change of ownership. In order to fulfill certain mitzvahs, you have to have an ownership. So the three examples that are mentioned here is saying that if we would be zeiche, then all the hachanas and the preparations necessary for mitzvahs would be done by others, by the animals in the world, that everything would be serving us and we would be able to just do the mitzvahs right away without waiting. It's one of the details of that the Rebbe says there. It's a long hadron. The Rebbe goes through many details. The Rebbe brings that the Yerushalmi says a little bit different than what it says in the Bavli. The Rebbe goes through it, Barichas Gedayla, explaining this inyan. But that's in the Kudah. Let's go to the last point of the Gemara. Rab Neiroi said, Maniach ani kol umnes v'chulu, that I put aside all professions and I teach my children only to learn Torah. So Tanya and the Braisa we learned, and here the Braisa basically says the same thing as the Mishnah, and it's actually even more bekitzer than the Mishnah. Rab Neiroi said, Maniach ani kol umnes shabaylam, I put aside all professions of the world, ve'eni melamed es b'nai el Torah, and I teach my children Torah. Shekolom nishabaylam, all professions in the world, ein oimedes leila ela b'mei yaldusai. So you have the benefit of them in your youth. Aval b'mei ziknusai, but in a person's old age, harei mutal berav, so he's going to be hungry and he won't have the ability to work in this profession to have his parnasa. Aval Torah ain't came, but when you have Torah, this is not so. This is there for the person in the time of his youth, and also when it gives him also a hope and an end of his life, to live his life out in good health with Torah, even in his old age. What does it say regarding a person's life in his youth? That those that hope in Hashem and learn Torah, the Eibusher constantly gives them new energy. Yalu Evek Kanasharim, and they fly up. They have their evarim. Their limbs are light like an eagle that flies high. What does it say in a person's old age? That even in a person's old age, he will still provide fruits and will be healthy and fresh like he was in his youth. Kidushin. We finished the Masechta. So there's a third hadron from the Rebbe, and this is printed in a letter. It's also printed in the Haisafis of Lekut Sichos Chelik Vav, where the Rebbe explains the last line over here in the Gemara. There's different points there in the hadron, just one point Bekitzer. The Rebbe connects the end of the Masechta to the beginning of the Masechta. The beginning of the Masechta talks about Isha Niknes, the Kidushin, marriage between Ish v'Isha, husband and wife. The Rebbe says it's connected to the Inyan of Torah because we know what Chazal tell us, that Matan Torah is the marriage. It's the Edison and then the Nisuin of the Eibusher to the Yidden, which are compared to Ish v'Isha. So therefore the Gemara finishes off with the ultimate marriage of Yidden, which is in Torah. That's the general connection. The Rebbe goes through different details regarding this Braisa here. Okay, Hadron, Allah, Masechta Kidushin. Hadron, Allah, Masechta Kidushin,